In 2011, Blake Shelton stood in a field in Texas under a white tent and told a few hundred guests that Miranda Lambert was the only woman he would ever need. He wept when he said his vows. Cameras everywhere, a country music fairy tale, the kind people frame and hang on a wall. 4 years later, that same man filed for divorce, and within months he was photographed with someone else. And the woman who had stood beside him through all of it, the woman who helped build the very throne he sat on, walked away in near total silence. So here is the question I want you to hold on to for the next few minutes. If she was the one who got left behind, why is she the one who came out whole? Because what no one tells you about the Blake and Miranda divorce is this. On July 20th, 2015, they announced they were done. 4 months later, on November 4th, Blake's publicist confirmed he was dating Gwen Stefani, the woman he sat next to every week as a coach on The Voice. 4 months from signing the divorce papers to going public with the coworker. And Miranda, the woman who gave him her 20s and the best years of her career, had to watch the whole thing play out in real time while tabloids called her the difficult one. I will share with you what Miranda said about that period in her own words before we are done. Stay with me for that part, because once you hear it, the entire story rearranges itself. Let me take you back to who these two actually were. Miranda Lambert was not a girl who got lucky. She was a fighter from Lindale, Texas, who wrote her own songs and played dive bars before anyone in Nashville would return her calls. By the time Miranda met Blake Shelton, she had a fire in her that the industry did not quite know what to do with. He was the easygoing Oklahoma charmer, already a little bit famous, with that big laugh that filled a room. They met in 2005. He was still married to his first wife at the time, and the two of them, by their own admission later, fell into something they could not stop. For years, they were country music's golden couple. Miranda gave him her 20s. She gave him a marriage, a ranch, a public image of two good old kids in love who had made it the honest way. And here is where things get complicated, faster than anyone realized at the time. Before I go further, I need to tell you one thing that almost nobody framed correctly back then. The marriage was already cracking, long before the world found out. And the reason has a lot to do with a job Blake took that changed both of their lives. In 2011, the same year they married, Blake joined a singing competition show as a coach. It made him a household name far beyond country music. Suddenly, he was on television every week, charming, beloved, a star in living rooms that had never bought a country record in their lives. His fame exploded. Hers stayed exactly where it had always been, earned the hard way, song by song. And the man who came home was not quite the man who had wept at that altar. The distance grew, the schedules pulled them apart. By 2015, it was over. Blake filed, the papers cited the usual language, and the whole thing was finished in a matter of days. And I think, if you have ever watched someone you love change after they got everything they wanted, you understand the particular ache of this. It is not one big betrayal. It is a slow drift. You keep showing up, you keep believing, and one day you realize the person across the table has already let go. The hardest part is not the ending, it is how quietly it arrives. Now, here is what the public did with all of it, and this is the part that still bothers me. When the divorce went public, the story did not protect Miranda. It blamed her. Whispers spread that she was difficult, that she was the reason it failed, that she could not keep a good man happy. Tabloids painted her as the villain of her own heartbreak, and Blake, the man who had filed, somehow came out of it as the sympathetic one, the nice guy who deserved better. There is something about a woman who gets left and then gets blamed for being left that this audience knows in its bones. You can do everything right and still be cast as the problem. You can be the one who was wronged and still be the one who has to explain herself. And then came the detail that made people do the math out loud. In mid-October 2015, just 3 months after the divorce, Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani were spotted together outside a Halloween party. By November 4th, his publicist confirmed they were dating. Gwen Stefani, the woman who sat in the coach's chair right beside Blake every week on The Voice. 2 coaches, 1 stage, a romance that went public so fast the tabloids could barely keep up. The timeline was not just tight, it was surgical. July to November, 4 months from the end of a 4-year marriage to the beginning of the next relationship, with cameras on both of them the entire time. I am not here to tell you what happened in private, because I do not know, and neither does anyone selling you a magazine. But I will tell you how it looked to the woman who had just signed the papers. It looked like the door had not even finished closing. So, let us talk about what Miranda did next, because this is where the whole story turns. What I am about to share with you changes how I see everything that came before it. See if you feel the same way. Miranda Lambert did not go on television to defend herself. She did not give the tearful tell-all interview that the press was begging for. She did not name names, settle scores, or sell her side of the heartbreak. She did something far harder. She went into a studio and she wrote. The album she released after that divorce was a double record. 24 songs, 2 discs, one called The Nerve, one called The Heart. It was titled The Weight of These Wings, and it came out in November 2016, a little over a year after the divorce. Miranda did not gossip about her marriage. She turned it into art. And the critics, the very industry that had let the tabloids drag her, called it one of the finest records of her career. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard Country chart. It won Album of the Year at the Academy of Country Music Awards. It went platinum. Critics across Rolling Stone, NPR, Billboard, and the New York Times called it one of the best country albums of the year. And Miranda let the record speak for her. She let her work speak where her voice stayed silent. And I think there is a kind of dignity in that which our culture almost never rewards in a woman and almost always rewards in a man. Because here is the truth underneath all of it. Miranda Lambert was never the one who needed the spotlight to feel whole. She had her songs, her own name, built before she ever met him. When the marriage ended, she did not lose her identity, because her identity was never borrowed from his. I want to take a breath here, because what comes next is the part I kept coming back to while I put this together. In the years that followed, the narrative slowly, quietly began to flip. People started looking back at that tight timeline. They started asking the questions out loud that the tabloids had buried, and the woman who had been cast as the villain began to look, in hindsight, like the one who had been protecting herself the whole time. And as for Miranda's own life, in November 2018, she was performing on Good Morning America with her band, the Pistol Annies. A man named Brendan McLaughlin was working security that morning. He was an NYPD officer, not a musician, not a television personality, not anyone chasing a spotlight. Miranda's bandmates saw him and decided, without telling her, to invite him to their show that night. They plucked him for her, as she later put it. They met backstage after the performance, they talked, they kept in touch by writing letters to each other, literal handwritten letters, the kind people do not send anymore. 3 months later, on January 26, 2019, Miranda Lambert married Brendan McLaughlin on a farm outside Nashville. No coaches, no cameras following them through a competition show, no fame to compete with, just a man who married her for who she was, not for the throne she could help him build. I promised you the part that made everything click. This is it. Years after all of it, Miranda opened up about that period of her life in interviews, about the divorce, the blame, the public storm, and she did not dance around it. She called it horrible, like the death of something. She said she went through a really hard time in her life and moved to Nashville in 2015 in the middle of a mess, but the people there lifted her up. She admitted she got so defensive from what she called the PTSD of being on magazine covers for things that were not true. But here is the detail that tells you everything. When Miranda finally sat down for what was supposed to be her first interview about the weight of these wings, the very first question the interviewer asked was, "How do you feel about Gwen?" She hung up. She refused to do press for the record after that. And later, when asked why she chose silence, Miranda said this: "What was in the music was real, and I wanted people to get it from that. All the sad moments were there. All the truths were right in those songs. All you had to do was listen." She never named him. She did not need to. The album said everything. And once you sit with that, the whole story rearranges itself, doesn't it? Blake Shelton did not trade up. He let go of a woman who was already complete for a fame that needed constant feeding. He did not lose a marriage. He lost the one person who loved him before the cameras did. I think a lot of women watching this have carried a version of that same hard lesson, that you can pour everything you have into someone only to watch them mistake your steadiness for something they can replace. Then you find out, years on, that the quiet life on the other side was the prize all along. Miranda Lambert is not the woman who got left. She is the woman who got free. She wrote her way through the worst of it. She never sold her dignity for sympathy, and she ended up loved the way she always deserved to be. Blake Shelton got the bigger stage. She got the better life. And maybe that is the part nobody tells you when you are the one being blamed for your own heartbreak. The story does not end where they leave you. Sometimes that is exactly where your story finally begins. If Miranda's story stayed with you, there is another woman we covered who walked a road just like it, Deborah Lee Furness. Married to Hugh Jackman for 27 years, who chose silence and dignity over a public fight and came out of it more free than anyone expected. Different world, same kind of quiet strength. I think you will see yourself in it. I will have it waiting for you at the end.